All right, Pythagorean theorem. This is one of the things that you will use a lot in the next couple of years in math, especially when you get to geometry. But Pythagorean's theorem is the idea that in a right triangle, this only refers to right triangles, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now what that means is a and b are the legs of the triangle. So this right here, these two portions are the legs. It doesn't matter which one's A, it doesn't matter which one's B, but these two sides are the legs, and it doesn't matter how you have the triangle set up. If the right portion is here, the legs are still the two shorter sides. And again, it doesn't matter which one's A and which one's B. So all you are going to do is take the measurement of A, square it, the measurement of B, square it, and that will tell you what C squared is. So if I make one that is, this will be 3, and this will be 4. So the two legs, A and B, are 3 and 4, and we can do it in whatever order we want. So we have 3 squared plus 4 squared, and this is going to equal the C squared. And one thing I wanted to say over here is when you are solving for C, you're always going to square the two numbers that they give you, add them together, and then find the square root of that number. We'll get to what you do when you're trying to find A or B in a minute. But we are looking for this longest side, the hypotenuse, the side that on a right triangle that is the longest. So 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. If we add them together, we get 25. The square root of 25 is 5. So in this one, C equals 5. And you just solve the Pythagorean theorem. So again, sometimes they will give it to you that they will not equal a whole number when you find the square root. So if I did 7 here and we'll do 5 here. So again, these are the legs. So we are just doing the adding and finding the square root. So we would do 7 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. So 49 plus 25, which is 74. 74 is not a perfect square, so what all they ask you to do with these so far in math is just do this symbol, and that would be your answer for C, if they give you a question like that. The good news is most of the time they are, basically all the time for you guys, they are giving you a whole number like we did on the first one. So if you don't get a whole number, you probably made a mistake with the calculation somewhere. But if you do get it, you can leave it just like that. You don't have to figure out what the actual square root of 74 is and get, 8.6 or 8.7 something on it. So one more that we'll do with finding the legs. We'll make this 8, and we'll make this 12. So again, we're still finding the legs, so 12 squared plus 8 squared equals C squared. So 144 plus 64, which would be 208. That is not a perfect square, so this would be your answer for that one, since I'm just making up numbers. Now, what happens if they give you one of the legs? They say this is 10 squared and this is 5 squared. So now we have C, we have the longest side measurement, and we have one of the legs. Again, it doesn't matter which one you are solving for, A or B, they're both end up being the legs. So when you don't have one of the two legs, whatever letter they make it, you do 10 squared, because that's the hypotenuse. You basically do C squared minus whatever leg squared it is, and that's going to equal the other one. We could switch these two and make that B squared and that A squared, it won't matter. But 10 squared minus 5 squared equals, in this case, we'll just make it A. So we'll switch those around. Should have paid attention to that. So this is going to be A squared. So 100 minus 25 equals 75, and we gotta find the square root of that, which is not a perfect square, as we found out a little while ago, so this would be your answer for it. We did, let's make this an 8, and this a 6. So 8 squared minus 6 squared equals a squared. And we would have 64 minus 36, which is 28. And again, 28 is not a perfect square. This is what happens when you try to make up the numbers. It's very difficult for me to get, off the top of my head, perfect squares, but you end up with that as your answer. If we would end up with, let's see, if we ended up with 16 as our answer, I know that that's not what we got. If 16 was what we get here, we always have to find the square root, and since that's a perfect square, we would make it 4. So you only have to find the square root when it's a whole number answer. If it's not, you can just leave